The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Welcome back to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast with yours truly, Ryan Greigg, and my amazing partner, Jacqueline Smith. Jacqueline, what is happening today?
Well, today we are going to talk about mindfulness, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think that mindfulness in a lot of people's minds, it means something different than what I think you and I have talked about, how we look at mindfulness. And so I'm really, really excited to share today both our perspectives and our journeys with mindfulness. And I know that it will help bring healing and awareness to a lot of people. So I'm just really excited for this conversation.
I think that was such a great way to introduce this conversation. And what an interesting topic on mindfulness, right? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
What does mindfulness mean? I mean, I always tend to break words down, Jacqueline. And I mean, mindfulness is like simply the awareness of our internal state or our surroundings. But if you just look at that word, mindfulness, does that mean your mind is full?
Mm.
And a lot of people ask, like with mindfulness or meditation, they say, I can't not think. So does that mean, should mindfulness actually be like mind emptiness? Like, should our mind not be full? I don't know. I was having a hard time just with that word alone.
Yeah.
But I think what I came to was simply the acknowledgement of how we're feeling. Mindfulness is giving us the ability to tap into our internal state and our surroundings and see how we're feeling. And then that brought up this other question, Jacqueline, are we feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And you shared some really neat stuff with me about your process of mindfulness and maybe what that looked like and how you even took it a step further. And I thought that was super cool. Could you share with our listeners what your process for mindfulness was and how you really took that a step further?
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize that I needed help with mindfulness until I decided that I was going to hire a coach. I was actually turning 40. And so this was about 5 years ago now. And I realized that I had spent my entire 30s really despising my body and struggling with weight, struggling with my confidence. And so I actually reached out to this gal that I'd been following for quite a while on Instagram. And I had a discovery call with her. And I was basically like, I want you to help me love my body, so I don't spend all my 40s, hating my body. And so what I thought I was signing up for was completely different. It was a realization that I had some really heavy trauma as a young child. And I had learned at a young age to really disassociate from myself and my body. And I was projecting a lot of shame onto my body. And it was really a journey of coming back home to myself and my body and learning how to be present with myself and learning how to feel emotions. And so that was about an 18-month journey where I worked with her. And then I felt like I needed some time to really integrate what I had learned and just kind of sit with it and live with it. But I found myself struggling to do the things that she had taught me, the tools, the mindfulness techniques that she had taught me. I just wasn't doing them. So I actually then hired a mindfulness coach and we met every Monday. And it gave me accountability. I had things to do throughout the week, different mindfulness practices. And then we would meet on Monday and we would discuss it. We would run through different practices. We would do a meditation. And I needed that accountability because I was really, what it was I was building a new habit and I needed support around building that habit. So that was really powerful. And in fact, the gal that was my coach at that time, Tammy, she did an interview. So you can go all the way back in the archives for 15-Point Plan. It was an episode in April of 2022, and it's called Mindfulness in All Things. But she was really paramount in my ability to actually implement, the tools that I had learned. So it's been quite a journey, still on it, and it's been really, really powerful.
And well, like you said, Jacqueline, the journey never ends. And I took a couple things away from that. First, I thought it was really cool that you listened to the previous episodes and then you heard somebody on there that actually spoke with you and you thought, you know what, maybe I can connect with this person. I think our listeners can take away a lot from that, and the fact that such a powerful person like yourself realized that they could use a little help in an area. And rather than dancing around it, you just went and got a coach. I think that's just a really important part for our listeners to hear. Whatever aspect in our life we might need some help in, it's okay. And in fact, it will boost your entire life to find the person that specializes in that and ask for help. Like, that's so cool that you asked for help to do that. But you mentioned trauma, Jacqueline. That's a heavy word. And I definitely have had some trauma in my life. I don't think my life's been that bad. I think my life's actually been really dang good. But like probably anybody that's listening to this podcast, we've both had some things that happened in our childhood that probably defined us in ways that we don't realize, and maybe ways we don't even want to. And maybe that's caused us to think or feel certain ways because of some things that happened that we had no control over as a young child. And we've held on to those forever. And now we might even not do things or run from things because of those childhood traumas. And what if we could just release those dang traumas, Jacqueline? And we talked about that. I talked about that on a previous episode with Jacqueline, or excuse me, with Jacqueline and Chad, on this idea of our traumas and our stories, right? Do our stories of our life serve us? And if they don't serve us, how can we break those down and remove those so that we can be free of those traumas, free of those stories? And I hear this so much, and I feel this every day. I think of, as soon as I go in my room, of my meditation room, what could come my way? What could come my way that I don't want to come my way? And I know that when we talk with people about mindfulness or meditation, there's that fear of, well, if I sit alone quietly in a room by myself, I'm going to have to be with myself. I'm going to have to think about things. And you know what? It's going to get uncomfortable. It's going to get uncomfortable because we've gotten so conditioned to know that no matter where we are, as soon as we get a moment to ourselves, whether that's in line at the grocery store or maybe just on a walk, we have unlimited distractions we can take our minds to, right? Whether that's our phone or talking with somebody or taking our mind off of all these things. And oftentimes, if we could just spend a little more time on those things, maybe we could start to break them down. Maybe we could start to break them down, and maybe we could start to actually heal from them. And if we can start to heal from them, then we can remove those things from our body because we know it's stored in our body. These traumas, they're not going away is the problem. They're stored in our body. We're all tight in our muscles and stuff. We thought it was because we worked out too hard. Turns out we're just storing all these emotions in there. So I had this thought of, like, if we can acknowledge our feelings, if we can sit and acknowledge our feelings, then maybe we can start the healing. And I think through mindfulness is one of the best ways we can heal ourselves, through mindfulness and through meditation.
Yeah, it's I think it's different than what a lot of people think when we hear the word mindfulness. At least for me, I always thought mindfulness is like meditation. But one of the practices that I did when I was working with that gal for 18 months is she would have me put a chair in front of my mirror, and I would sit there and I'd set a timer, started with 5 minutes, and I would just be with myself and look into my own eyes. And it was emotional. I get emotional even thinking about, like, the first time that I did that. Because I had lived so long, so numb. And I remember I avoided that practice. She kept on giving it to me for homework, and I kept not doing it. And finally she was like, let's talk about, like, what is causing you to avoid this 1 5-minute exercise. And I didn't even realize that I was, like, subconsciously, I was avoiding spending time with myself. I was avoiding, like, looking, like, really looking at myself and spending that time just, like, looking into my own eyes. And it was the first time I did it, it was very, very emotional for me. And I just think those are the types of things that sometimes you might need help with. I mean, I did. I wouldn't have even known that I was really disassociated from myself. I did not know. I would have actually thought, like, I'm pretty self-aware, I'm pretty in tune with myself. But I really had a lot of work to do there.
Was I'm like, I've never done that, and I'm definitely going to try it. And I'm seeing myself do that right now, and I imagine how hard it would be. Were the first thoughts that went through your head when looking at yourself in the mirror positive or negative?
I I actually had an experience that was I had a lot of like compassion and empathy
Huh.
in those moments. And she had given me some, some thoughts to guide that process. And so it was really a matter of, we go through life and we have these things happen and we just kind of truck along and we numb ourselves with work or with,
Hmm.
food, shopping, alcohol, whatever it is. And
Hmm.
you just kind of go through life on autopilot. And when you finally look at yourself and spend that time and think about, like, we've all just done the best that we can, right? Like, even as like a teenager and a young adult, and like we all were just doing the best that we can. And so it was one of those moments where it was like I stopped the self, like the judgment and the criticizing, and just acknowledged that we're all doing the best that we can. And I had done the best that I could with what I had. And it
That
was,
must have been a pretty freeing and empowering
Mhm.
feeling.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jacqueline, like when we say that, it almost sounds like it's cutting yourself short. Like, oh, I did the best we could, and I look at you and I'm like, the best you could is freaking amazing. Like, you are in an amazing relationship, you have an amazing family, you have an amazing business. Like,
Mhm.
the best you could is really freaking good. So let's give ourselves some credit. And I look at
Mhm.
myself, and I think about myself, and I I asked you put negative or positive because my first thoughts are often negative.
Mhm.
My first thoughts are often, good job on your workout, but you still got some pounds to cut. Good job on your workout, but your abs could be tighter. Good job at your real estate sales, but you probably could have sold 5 more. It's always like the but. Good job, but. And I read Peter Attia's book Outlive, Jacqueline, and the last chapter talks about mental health, and this was one of the best parts of that book. It was so helpful for me because he said, when we're having that self-talk with ourselves, picture your best friend sitting on the other side, or maybe like your best friend in that mirror, right? My best friend's name is Nick. I've known him my whole life, literally from the day I'm born. And Peter Attia said, would you talk to your best friend the way you just talked to
Mhm.
yourself? I had never heard that. And I have not beat myself up once since then. And every time I start to go down that road of, oh, well, like, yeah, but I see my
Mhm.
best friend. And he's like there lifting me up. And I look and I go, yeah, all right. you know, that was super helpful for me to just have that image of my best friend in the mirror with me.
Mhm.
I would
That's
never talk to my best friend like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back to the mindfulness part, I just think that we're so scared to sit alone. And I
Mhm.
find there's so much benefit to it. And one example I wanted to share with you was this ability to sit and maybe sit through processes that we know are going to happen, that are these hard things that we don't want to go do. We got to do them anyways. So maybe we can sit in mindfulness and sit in meditation and play this scene out, right? And the example that I had was just last week, I had to have a hard conversation with someone, Jacqueline. Like, it had
Mhm.
been like 2 months of a real disconnect with this person. And this is a very important person in my life. And we were just disconnected. And finally I said, hey, can we talk? Like, it hit this point where I'm like, can we talk? And that morning in my meditation, I spent the entire 20 minutes going through that. But I started at the end because I knew I was mad at this person, but I didn't want to end mad at this person. I
Mhm.
thought, I want to walk out of that room like with a hug and a plan to move forward. So that was where I started in the meditation, was us walking out of that room. And then I said, okay, well, how do I got to get there? I'm angry at this person. I don't want to just be angry and leave angry. So I went through all the things that I'm angry for in my head first before I told them. That list got so much shorter. But the important part that happened was when I sat down with them and I started to say, you've done this and you've done that. I made it like 2 of those things through. And there I was in the mirror. And I realized, oh my gosh, Jacqueline, I'm pointing the finger at them, but I
Mhm.
haven't been there for them. You've done this and you've done that, and I haven't been there for you. We've disconnected those last couple of months because you've had a hard life, and I've had a hard life, sure, but have I checked in with you? I've been sitting waiting for you to check in with me, but I haven't checked in with you. And I just looked at that person. I started crying. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I disconnected from you. I took responsibility for it. And that was so empowering. But I
Mhm.
saw that happen in that meditation before I went and met with this person. And that's one of the best examples of sitting in mindfulness to help you get through a tough part of your day. See all that stuff happening before it's happened and come up
Yeah.
with a plan right there with you and just you alone. And that really changed my day and changed, I think, the future of that person and I.
Relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have really stood out to me as like I joke and say like you're the mindfulness guru, right? And I really feel like you've really mastered this. I know you're never, there. It's always a journey, but you've really been intentional with this in your life. And I know you've had a journey as well and shared something really profound that I don't want us to not mention about something that your son said to you. So will you share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, like we mentioned, we all have traumas growing up in our life, right? My life was easy compared to most, but there was this thing of anger in my life as a childhood, and I didn't do well dealing with it, and that built up a lot of anger as an adult that was stored that I didn't realize was there, and I was not good at managing that anger, and thankfully I've gotten a little bit better. Quick side note though, I think it's super important if you're going to get into mindfulness and meditation to have that space. And what I've done is create this beautiful space. And we talked about this on a previous episode of like waking up with some excitement. Jacqueline, I honestly wake up and I get out of bed excited to go into my meditation space.
Mm.
So create a space that is beautiful for you, that is sacred to you, that's got some family members stuff there that speaks to you, that you go into and you're excited to go into there. So that's just to get you into that zone. The thing that I learned though was that I had all this anger stored up and there was no way for me to release it unless I sat in meditation, unless I saw these things and I really, really processed these things and had help and had people that I could talk through it with. And I used to get to this point with people where I would lose my temper and I would yell, just like I was raised to learn. You got mad, you yelled. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And that's how I would act with my son. And a couple of years ago, my son, who's now almost 12, we were talking and I don't remember where it came from, Jacqueline, but he said, Dad, you don't get mad anymore.
Mm.
And so at first I said, dang, I used to get mad. But I said, wow, what a compliment. My son, the most important person in my life, and how dare I ever yell at that kid, by the way? How dare I? Why was I doing that? He said, you don't get mad anymore. And that was the biggest win. And that is 100% because of meditation, no question. So if you have an anger management thing or you got some stuff within you, maybe sitting alone in that room and just sitting with your thoughts can help you get through those things, can help you process those traumas that happen in your life, and you can move forward with a little less weight, a little less baggage on you. And if I can help you with that and you want to talk more on that, shoot me a message directly because I am incredibly passionate about this because it has worked and has changed my life and my son and my family's life.
Yeah. So Ryan actually has recorded for all of us a meditation. So we are going to release that. And we hope that you'll all check on that and give it a try. And then find us. We have a Facebook group. It's called A Place for Wellness. You can find us in there. Ryan and I are both highly engaged in that group. And Ryan actually hosts a call on Wednesdays at noon. And you are all invited on that call. It's a Zoom call and it's just about wellness, usually the 15-point plan and the topics that we're talking about on this podcast. So if you are looking for a space to continue the conversation, to connect with Ryan and I, A Place for Wellness on Facebook. You can also Instagram, message us if you need help. If I can refer you to the coaches that I've worked with, if Ryan can help you get started on your mindfulness journey, find us on Instagram, Jacqueline Ray Smith and Bentley's Old Man. Find us in the Facebook group and definitely tune in to our next episode and keep an eye out for Ryan's mindfulness episode that he recorded for us.
Yeah, Jacqueline, I'm very excited and a little nervous, to be honest, but it's something that I've done in the past. And I do believe that it will help people just tap into their personal energy that's within them. And it's going to be something different. This is outside of what we've talked about. This is going to be something different. And I would love to hear any feedback if you do check it out. So Thanks, as always, for listening to the 15-Point Plan podcast. Jacqueline, this was a good one. This was a really good one, and I think this is going to really open up some people's eyes in some ways that we haven't talked about yet. So we thank everybody for listening. We're excited for that little bonus drop that's going to come after this, and we'll see you on the next one. Check 15pointplan.com and everywhere else Jacqueline mentioned. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.